My name is Ralph Harris. I'm the military guy, or at least that's what some people call me. I've done a series of shows on Iraqi or Vietnam veterans and Korean veterans, World War II, the Pacific, D-Day, and a few others. Tonight I'm very proud to have three veterans from Iraq here in Ann Arbor, and they are our guests. Before we actually get to our guests and the questions, I would like to do a little history because a lot of people, especially young people, don't remember or don't know. But the first Gulf War began on August the 2nd, 1990. It's hard to believe it was that long ago. Iraq invaded Kuwait. That's a little country on the Gulf there. And the Iraqis said that they invaded Kuwait because they said the Kuwaitis were stealing their oil with slant drilling. Wasn't true. Not the point. Iraq was warned by the United States and the United Nations to retreat. And they didn't listen. They ignored the wishes of the world. Coalition forces, led by the United States, began a military buildup to oust Iraq from the little country of Kuwait. The result of the Iraqis not paying attention was Desert Storm. That was the official name of the first Gulf War when it started. It began on January 17th, 1991. Iraqi air forces were quickly destroyed in the air phase, and many of their planes were flown to Iran for safekeeping. At least they thought that. So the Iraqi Air Force didn't have any impact whatsoever. They were absolutely, utterly destroyed. The ground phase began on February 24th, 1991. It was basically a battle between a Russian equipment and United States equipment, and the Russian equipment failed miserably. The United States equipment used by the coalition forces was very superior. Coalition forces used a surprise strategy by doing an in-run through the desert with airdrops of fuel and so forth, and the Iraqis were very surprised. Their tanks were destroyed before they even knew they were being looked at because of the Abrams tanks. The ground invasion lasted only 100 hours. Think of that. It wasn't very, very long at all. And it ended with what was called the Highway of Death. The Highway of Death was miles and miles of Iraqi soldiers in vehicles that they had stolen from Kuwait and their own military vehicles, and they were absolutely strafed, bombed, and messed with and killed by the thousands. And President Bush said, enough, and so we did not go on to Basra, and the Gulf War ended. 540,000 American servicemen began coming home on March the 10th, 1991. Now, over a period of time, which led up to the second Gulf War. By 2003, Iraq was believed to have WMD, that's weapons of mass destruction. That's chemical, possibly nuclear, and help me guys. Biological, sure. And we thought they would be a threat to the United States allies in the Middle East. This was believed because all of the intelligence services of the world said that they agreed. It wasn't just the United States. It was the British, the Germans, the Israelis, and the Russians. They all agreed, not some, not most, all agreed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. It wasn't a lie. Nobody's trying to pull anything over anybody's eyes. Well, the question would come up then, why? Well, it might have been a ruse by Saddam thinking that if he scared the world that he had WMD, we wouldn't invade. Well, he was wrong. Or maybe the WMD were shipped to Iran or Syria. There are many military people who think there were mysterious convoys going into Syria and Iran, that maybe those weapons were shipped out of the country. After numerous United Nations resolutions and the U.S. warnings to assure the world that they didn't have WMD, the result was we had a second Gulf War. It was called Iraqi Freedom. Hostilities began on March 20th, 2003. At the end of the war, which didn't last long, the military of the coalition was overwhelmingly superior, the Russian equipment was utterly destroyed, and we ended up in Baghdad in no time at all. Unfortunately, however, there were a lot of bitter enders, as they were called, continued to attack coalition forces using guerrilla tactics and terrorism, with weapons and munitions partially supplied by Iran. And the war continues to this day. I have 3 guests tonight. I'm very proud to introduce them. Starting over here, we have Sergeant Steve Cummings, United States Army, and we have Sergeant Ellis Agee, United States Marine Corps. And here to my right, I have PFC Sam Mishler from the United States Army. So Sergeant Cummings and Sergeant Agee and Private Mishler will be sharing with us their experiences in the war. Do you mind if I call you by your first names? All right, Steve, tell me about, where's your hometown?
Oh, now it's Milan, Michigan.
Milan, Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do you have a family?
Oh, I sure do. Wife, 2 kids.
Wife and 2 kids?
My son is currently serving in Iraq.
Okay, cool. And Sergeant Agee, where's your hometown?
Ecorse, Michigan.
Okay, a little bit east of here, eh?
A little bit east of
You
here.
guys all look a little stiff here, so I'm trying to calm us down a little bit. And where's your hometown, Sam? Excuse me, PFC Mishler.
It's Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Okay. And what branch of service were you in, Steve? Obviously, it's the Army, but do you remember your unit and all that kind of stuff?
Sure, 156 Signal Battalion, Company A out of Ypsilanti, Michigan Army National Guard.
And you're still in there.
I've just retired last month.
And Sergeant Agee, how about you? What unit?
I was with the 2nd Marine Logistics Group out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Now, you're looking sharp tonight, so that
Thank you.
must mean you're in town doing something. What are you doing in town?
I am currently a recruiter for the U.S. Marine Corps.
Well, you can put a pitch out there. The people are watching here.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm
yes.
a recruiter with the U.S. Marines on Washington Avenue. Definitely come see me sometime.
There you go. And Private Mishler, what's your unit? You're still in.
I am still
You're going back to Iraq.
Yes, I am.
And what's your unit?
I'm with Alpha 316 Field Artillery Regiment and 24 ID, based out of Fort Carson in Colorado.
And Steve, when were you in Iraq?
Right at the start of the war, March of 2003 until June of 2004.
That's the second Gulf War, Iraqi
Yes,
freedom.
Right, Iraqi freedom.
And I understand you might be going back.
Well, I'm trying to get back.
Okay. And how about you, Sergeant?
I was actually, I went to the war September 2005 to March of 2006,
Okay.
Fallujah, Iraq.
And Sam, you're in the service now, home on leave, isn't that right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
How long you been home?
I've been home since the 21st,
How long were you over before you came home on leave?
since January.
First deployment?
Yes.
And how old are you?
18.
My Lord, you're an old guy.
Wow.
And
Getting up there.
how about you, Steve? How old were you when you went in?
When I first went in, I was 17. Vietnam was still going on.
Yeah, you know, all these shows, you can talk to the Korean guys or the Vietnam guys or whatever, they're all 17, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And how old were you when you first got in the Marine Corps?
18,
Yep, and now you are,
25.
and a good-looking 25.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll date later. Well, I think it's funny. Nobody else is laughing. That's
Oh,
all
yeah.
right.
Sound like a Navy.
Now,
Probably
did
so.
sound
Hey,
like
don't
that.
ask, don't
Steve,
tell.
right there.
when you were in Iraq, what were your duties? What did you do over there?
We did what was called MSE, Mobile Subscriber Equipment. We handled communications, voice, data, all of the internet for the entire country of Iraq.
It's Army jargon, which means you were communicating all over that country, and it's a big country. Most people don't
It's a huge
understand that
country.
Iraq is a very huge country.
It's pretty good size.
Yeah. And Sergeant Agee, what did you do over there?
I worked in military postal operations. Mailman, boxes, letters, and you can imagine your loved ones being in Iraq for a period of time. The mail flow was incredible, and I aided in assisting the mail flow.
Get any cookies?
I got plenty of cookies, candy, shaving equipment, other things. We had a lot of fun over there.
And how about you, Sam?
I worked on the ECP for a FOB, which is an entry control point for our forward operating base. I was doing that for the
Describe
first
what
part.
that is, because remember the people who are watching,
True, very true.
you know what you're talking about, but they're saying, what the
That's very
blazes
true.
is
I've got a
it?
group of guys who know what I'm talking about. I forgot. The ECP, the entry control point, is basically the front entry gate to the forward operating base. So anybody who wants to come into the FOB has to go through me first. So anybody who is not pre-processed through and could just pass through the ECP, their vehicle has to be searched. The person themselves has to be searched, just to be on the safe side.
It's a
so to speak.
security job then? Making
is
sure
a-
that
it
bad
is a
guys don't
security
get
job.
in and do some harm?
Essentially, yeah, that's the quick and dirty of it. I just got to make sure that nothing dangerous comes into our FOB, hurts the rest of the
So
personnel.
you're in
with
essence the
everything.
point man between the good guys and the bad guys.
That's right. I'm the
There you
first line
go.
of defense
I
on the
don't
FOB.
think I'd want to be there.
It's a pretty
All right.
high-risk mission.
Oh, yeah.
It can
Absolutely.
be.
No, I understand that. Sam,
You'll get it.
I'm sorry. Steve.
Sooner or later.
Well, tell us about some of your missions when you're in Iraq. Do you have any that you want to discuss? Or anything?
Well, we were there.
Excuse me, just for a second. If I understand this rightly, in Iraq, we have a number of bases, and by and large, the military people are on bases, and they leave these bases, and it's called the wire, isn't it? And then they go on missions to do whatever is supposed to be done in the countryside. Just don't roam around and put up a pup tent.
Right.
And there's no front lines like there was in World War II, where here was the line, and 1 mile's that way. Don't go that way because the Germans are over there, or whatever, whoever's the bad guy at the time. Am I right on this?
Yes.
So
I
you're
would
on
say
these
you're
bases.
correct.
Now, for you, Steve, you're doing what now?
Well, our first assignment was a place called LSA Dogwood, Logistics and Support Activity. That's was about 35 kilometers southwest of Baghdad. That's where all the munitions that were captured from downtown Baghdad were brought out and blown up. It was a pretty desolate place, no infrastructure at all. We were living in tents, eating 2 MREs and 1
What's an
T-Rat.
MRE?
Yummy.
Meals rejected by starving Ethiopians.
No, no, no.
Good one.
What are they? 'Cause they're
Meals
public.
ready to eat. They're
Yeah.
prepackaged.
How
good.
they taste?
Well, it's better than, I would say, better eating than the sand, but you ate the sand with it anyway.
I think they're
In
good.
in my time back in the 50s, they were called K rations.
Well,
And
K
they
rations.
Couldn't have been
yeah,
any
I
worse.
had C rations, so I will have to say they're better than C rations ever were. But
Okay.
you
thank
got by.
Okay. And how about you, Sergeant? Any missions you can talk about? Want to talk about?
Sure. The main mission that I was involved in was just transporting the mail back from the actual base to the FOBs, which is short for Forward Operating Base. We had 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines over there. We had 3315. Those are just different units. And what we did was we transported the mail via convoy back and forth. And we just took care of all the mail coming into the base. It was mainly, for my unit, was non-combative.
Now, most people don't realize it, but those convoys came all the way from Kuwait and from the Gulf, and you had things flown in, and that was your lifeline. Water, gasoline, you name
Definitely.
it, you had to have it in
Food.
convoys.
That's right.
Yeah, and it was very dangerous if you were in convoy duty. Isn't that right, guys?
Definitely.
It was.
Scariest
Okay.
thing.
It's
I had
very
to do was
dangerous.
convoy.
And
I would say so.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
like them.
Absolutely.
Like
Sam,
those-
do you have anything you want to say on this area, or are you forbidden because of security or whatever?
In terms of missions, there's only so much of a mission that you can do with an ECP, with an entry control point. Basically, the mission remains the
That
same.
is the mission.
That it is the mission. Protect
Safety.
the FOB.
Yeah,
Safety is my mission, which I carry out every day.
yeah. That's and both of these gentlemen agree that it's a dangerous job.
I think anybody over there and anybody who's in the military, doesn't matter what branch,
Right.
would know and would agree with me that safety is our main mission over there.
Absolutely. Steve, I hope you guys don't mind me calling you by your first names. It seems more natural. I could say sergeant, and private, but I'm not going to do that. So I don't mean any disrespect. I hope the audience realizes that. But I know these 3 guys, and they hate the word hero. But no, I had the guys in from Korea and Vietnam. They all resent that. Don't call me hero. Well, bullcrap, you are. Steve, did you see any combatants? Any bad guys
Yeah, every day.
every day?
Every day. You know, people don't want to draw a parallel to Vietnam, but in a way, you have to, because half the time you don't know until the weapon comes up who is a good guy and who is a bad
Yeah,
guy.
they don't wear uniforms.
They don't
though.
wear uniforms. It's an insurgency. A lot of the times we were attacked, we never saw who did it. We knew we were being attacked, certainly, but
You know,
yeah.
those bullets whizzing around, you figure, and explosions going on, you figure somebody...
Mortars. I've been through a lot of mortars.
I don't know if there's anything as a good war, but at least when we were fighting the Germans and Japanese, they had the courage enough to wear a uniform.
We wish they would.
Right.
Yeah, well,
At least carry a sign.
they'd
Yeah.
get their butts beaten pretty quickly. Well, they were. When they were wearing in Iraq, both Gulf Wars, when they wore uniforms, they were defeated in no time at all. 100 hours. Anyway, Sergeant, how about you? Did you ever see any combatants?
I can't say for sure. I saw many of the locals over there. I'm not sure who would turn to a bad guy at nighttime and then be the good guy in the morning.
Yeah.
But as far as like the combat mission, I didn't see any that I knew for sure were hostile.
That's the way it was in Vietnam, you know. They had the Viet Cong, not the North Vietnamese. The North Vietnamese at least wore uniforms, but the
Right.
Viet Cong used to hide and come out. And in the daytime, they're doing the rice fields, and in the nighttime,
Cutting
they were
your
trying to
hair.
kill you.
Right.
How about you, Sam?
That it was
Did you ever
very.
see anybody come up close that was a
Oh, they were
combatant?
very. It was very off and on, but we did get every now and again we would get combatants in the form of PBIDs, person-borne IEDs, or VBIDs, vehicle-borne IEDs,
No, wait a minute. Remember, the public doesn't understand that.
improvised explosive device.
Ah, yes.
They're improvised explosive devices.
Boom.
Yeah, essentially that's what they did. Go boom, and anything that was within a 100-meter radius, anything within 50 to 100 meters, was
Yes.
destroyed.
And they had very big
There-
IEDs.
There could be. I mean, there were some that used artillery rounds.
I was just going to say, used artillery rounds. And, of
Mm-hmm.
course, Iran right now is furnishing the, what do they call those guys?
Explosively.
Yes,
formed
they're
projectiles.
cone-shaped, and that's why the Humvees got blasted out of the thing, and that's why we have the, what do they call the new vehicle? It's,
MRAP.
yeah.
The MRAP is.
yeah, it's got a V-shaped bottom and heavily armored.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Crazy.
did, Steve, did you think you'd survive and come home all right, or did you have your doubts at some point?
Oh, I had a lot of doubts. When I was there, we didn't have any armor whatsoever. Our Humvees they had cloth sides. And, you know, so we did what we could to do makeshift armor. We'd take a piece of steel and throw it on the floor, maybe throw some sandbags on it. Later on, I was lucky enough to get a second vest, bulletproof vest. And I took the first one, which was Vietnam era, and I kept it with me, and I'd hang it on the side of the door so that if, you know, hopefully it would slow it down enough that...
How about you,
wouldn't
Sergeant?
do it.
What was the question again now?
Did you have any, did you think you'd survive and come home all right?
There were times where it was definitely more nerve-wracking than other ones, but I rely on my faith a great deal. So I can say for sure that I did not doubt that I'd be home safe.
How about you, Sam?
I think that me, along with everybody else, these two gentlemen here, and everybody that I work with, has doubts at some point or another. I did have my doubts, but at the end of the day, I knew I was coming home, 10 fingers and 10 toes.
Now, you know, the funny thing, this is going to be politically incorrect, but when you look at 4,000 deaths spread over, what, 6 years, if you look at the deaths per year, you're probably having more deaths if you live in New York of homicide, robbery and so forth, than you would be dying in Iraq of a combat death.
Right.
And most people don't think of that. It's terrible to lose 4,000 guys, but if you're safer there than you are in Chicago or LA, that's a little strange. At least it is to me.
I'm glad
Another-
you got Detroit out right there.
Say again?
I'm glad you didn't say Detroit that time. I was waiting for
That
it.
sure doesn't work
I was
too
waiting
good
for
for us.
it.
I left that out on purpose.
Okay.
And, you know, another thing, when they're talking about the Humvees and all that, and a lot of people were critical of the United States Army and the Marines because they said, well, we went to send them over there unequipped. The idea was, for God's sake, for the Humvees to be behind the lines. They were supposed to be running around where it was safe,
Right.
not out in a combat situation. And, of course, this war was very different. And so that was the problem. They weren't designed to be on the front line, a Humvee. Were you wounded, Steve, or have any close calls?
Yeah, I had A few close calls.
Yeah. Want
we-
to talk about it, or
Well, our mortars. We had
ours
one.
or theirs?
Theirs.
Okay.
They have basically three mortars at the time: 61 millimeter, 82 millimeter, and 122 millimeter.
That's a big puppy.
That's a rocket-assisted projectile, and they can fire that from a long ways away. And the other two, you know when they're coming because you can hear them come out of the tubes. It's it's kind of a thunk.
Yeah.
It's
Perfect.
Yeah,
It sounds
it's
like-
just like
You'll hear a
what comes
whistle.
out of the tubes on a 4th of July, and
Well, except
you-
it's not fireworks.
well, no, it is when
in
it
a
hits.
sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice
I
little
mean,
shower there.
yeah, you're not
We
going
had,
to enjoy it.
We had what's called a Costco barrier. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's basically a big box with fencing around it, and it's filled with dirt. And we put that around our living quarters, and we had a pretty good bunker that the engineers made, a nice hole in the ground. Matter of fact, I got a picture of it. That's basically all we had for protection. And we had a rocket-assisted mortar attack that ended up putting shrapnel through our tent. We were thankfully down in the bunker. It came within about 50 meters of us. That was close enough for me.
And you want to go back?
Yeah, I'd love to if I could. But
Okay. How about you, Sergeant Eddie? Were you ever mortared, fired on, or have anything that, any close calls where you said, I don't want to do that again?
Yes, we did. When you start hearing the sirens go off and you feel the ground rumble, you know that it's incoming, because you hear bombs all the time, but usually it's going out. All right, when you hear a bomb and you feel the ground and you hear a siren, they tell you, take cover. You get kind of the pucker effect going on there, So that happened a few times.
We won't get into what's
Right.
puckering here. Okay. But I know what you're talking
Use
about.
your imagination.
Right.
Yeah,
Just-
all right.
yeah, just think about it.
So-
How about you, Sam?
We had a few close calls. I mean, it's the ECP. Everybody, that's their main point of attack is the ECP. So yeah, there were a few when we somebody will bring in a car, and as soon as they get out of the car, they push a button or they flip a switch, and everything goes boom. But at this point in OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom, the precautions that we take are generally pretty good, pretty solid. We got nicely built, very very solid concrete bunkers, and everybody is positioned into a place where they can get behind something quickly if something were to happen.
Steve, thank you. What were your feelings in these situations? Anything you want to share?
Scared spitless.
The pucker effect, yeah.
Actually, they hit us with a lot of the little ones, and the 60 ones, they don't really do, well, they'll kill you if they're close, but mostly they're about like a hand grenade. It didn't affect us too much. You got used to that. You'd still run for the bunker, don't get me wrong, but it was almost harassment fire. But when the big ones come in, it's basically like being under artillery fire.
Wow. And Sergeant Agee, how about you?
I would honestly say it was a feeling of excitement, because it was like, it made everything seem more real. Because like a lot of people don't realize, when you're over there, there are certain aspects of the day where you don't really feel like you're in war, because it's just normal people walking around, laughing, joking. But then when it happens, it's like, oh, it's back to reality.
Yeah.
Eating
Eating dinner, washing
reality.
clothes, that's sort of normal activities, and suddenly
Right.
all hell breaks loose.
Then everyone grabs the weapons and starts running. You're like, okay, well, here we go. This may be it.
Yeah.
So, but
How about you, Sam?
It was, I'd have to say, I would feel the same sort of excitement that Sergeant Agee felt. It was a sense of excitement, sense of adrenaline, because you're spending anywhere between 6, 12, and 18 hours on shift. So when something happens, it's like, yes, we're finally going to work.
When I was in Berlin on guard there, the big deal was try to keep the German girls out of the compound. A little different deal.
Sounds like a rough job.
No, it was good.
Real hard
It was
right
the
there.
50s.
you probably got through by accident, huh?
It was another. No, we're surrounded by
okay.
Russians and all that. Could have gotten nasty, but it didn't. Tell us about, Steve, do you have any event or something that you'll never forget?
Yeah,
can
I've
share.
got quite a few of them.
Pick the worst one or the best one, whatever.
I got to sit on Saddam Hussein's throne in his
Oh,
palace.
yeah.
That
I
was-
saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
You sat in Saddam Hussein's throne.
I did indeed,
Gold,
sir.
right?
I have a picture. You'd like to
You
see
might
that?
have a
Well,
picture
stick it
here.
up. Maybe we can get it on the thing.
I don't know.
But that is a cool picture.
Show up.
I mean, how many people in the world can say, I sat in a dictator's throne, not a chair, a throne?
It was a throne.
If I wanted to sit in my battalion commander's chair, I could say that.
Hold
but
it
that's
real
a little
still,
different.
maybe somebody can get it. I don't know if they can get that or not. While they're showing that, they're Sergeant Agee. How about you? Anything that you'll never forget?
I would probably say the scariest moment. Besides the bombs and things going off, we were on a convoy one time taking mail to a place, and the whole convoy stopped. It was some crap on the road. They thought it might have been a bomb, so they said everyone get out. They say condition 1, which means you're right with your weapon. They say condition 1, that means put around in the chamber as you're ready to go to action. And that was the first time I took my weapon off safe while I was in Iraq, and
You thought, I may have to fire this damn thing.
that's what I thought. And I jumped out of the truck, and we were guarding the road waiting for them to come and make sure that it wasn't a bomb. And while I was out there, I was thinking, has to be a setup. I've heard about it time and time again.
Yep.
And now we're in a setup.
Yep.
But
The daisy chain.
thank God it was just, like a pile of clothes, and the thing came out and swung it around and threw it away, and we took off. And we got the hell back to base very quickly.
Yeah. No. How about you, Sam?
There's plenty of, excuse me, there's plenty of experiences that I could name, but mostly I would say that any time that there was a possible IED,
Oh, yeah.
that had to be the scariest moment of my life. Any time that there was a possible explosive in a vehicle or on a person, I was scared out of my mind.
And that's the big problem in
It really
Iraq
is.
and Afghanistan are these dumb bombs that faceless people in the middle of the night come out and put them out there, or they take a camel or a car or something. Actually, they're not equipped to fight us because they know they get their butts kicked. But that's the big fear, isn't it, guys? And that's where the
Very-
the
very
stuff
true.
comes from. In retrospect, talking about Desert Storm and Iraqi freedom, do you support the war, Steve, or what do you think about it now?
I fully support the war.
Fully support the war.
Fully support the war. Of course, I'm a career soldier, so I can see a lot of people would say, well, yeah, we expect you to. But
Okay, now we have about
I
a
re-
minute left.
can I say it?
Sure, go
I
ahead.
remember watching a small television at work and watching that second plane hit the World Trade Center. And I knew right then I was going to war.
Yeah, but you know what they say. Well, Iraq didn't attack us. Well,
understand
the
that.
terrorists are in Iraq, Afghanistan, Angola. They're everywhere, and we got to fight them somewhere. How about you, Sergeant? We have about 30 seconds left. I forgot what I asked.
I support the
Thank-
decision of those in charge and those people that are directed to carry out the duties.
How about you, Sam?
Regardless of whether or not I support the war, I defend this country. Therefore, I will do what I need to do.
Hurrah!
Ooh, yeah. And it's true. And I want to thank you, Steve, Sergeant Cummings, and Sergeant Agee, and Private Mishler for being our guest tonight. I hope all the citizens in Ann Arbor appreciate your service. I'm sure they do. And thank you very, very, very much for being on my humble little program here, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Very enjoyed it.